The level design problems I'm about to talk about are destroying the enjoyability of platformer demons. Here's why they harm levels and how they can be improved for better player experience. The first type of bad platformer gameplay is direction-changing Dash Orbs. Dash Orbs that flip the player's horizontal movement direction, and these are bad because of the way Dash Orbs are coded in platformer mode. If you want to get the full boost and land where the level creator intended, you have to change direction in midair before you hit the orb, otherwise you'll likely come up short, and when you do change direction, you can't do it too early or you'll miss. The point is, you should try to limit the use of direction-changing Dash Orbs in order to make your gameplay less awkward, but if you absolutely must have them, the aforementioned problem can be mitigated by putting the orbs up against a wall. This helps because without a wall, players might hit the Dash Orb farther back than you intended them to and come up short. Putting a wall there makes the point of contact more consistent, and the gimmick as a whole less finicky, although you should still minimize how often you use it. On to the second example. Have you ever tried to get into a video game but failed because it was just too difficult to learn? You're not alone. Bad introduction of mechanics, or just downright confusing mechanics, is a problem in a lot of gaming contexts, and when it is, it often ruins the playing experience of a level or game that can be quite fun to play for people who actually understand the core mechanics. If someone has a hard time mastering the fundamental aspects of gameplay, they are not going to have a good time. Such was the case for me when I tried to beat Speed Tech by Galvatron. Despite multiple tutorials and hours of trying, I could not consistently climb the level slopes. Through sheer luck, I eventually passed the first one, though I had no idea how to replicate this result, and made it somewhat deep into the level. Well, of course, when I discovered that the slopes were a recurring gimmick, I gave up. As for how to improve, well, when there's a mechanic that some people just can't get good at, it needs to be scrapped in favor of one that's easier to learn. That alone would make your levels so much better. Sorry to pick on Speed Tech a second time, but it features another gimmick that's iffy in a platformer level, wave dashing. Wave dashing is a setup where you hit an orb that boosts your horizontal speed and puts you on the ground for a quick jump. The issue with this thing is that it's a little too button mashy. If the dash and jump were a bit further apart, like a ta-ta, it would probably be fine, but since it's more of a it's not fine. Gameplay this spammy would probably work better in a normal GD level, but in platformer, a more chill/precision based game mode, it breaks the flow and click rate of the rest of the gameplay. If you plan to include wave dashing in your platformer level, space the inputs apart, and do it within a higher intensity section that such a mechanic would fit in with. Remember, it's key to avoid changes in click rate that feel unnatural, as well as difficulty that feels unnatural. I'm talking about I Want to Be the Guy and this trend of insane extreme platformer demons that are all boring due to artificial difficulty. If you don't know what this is, artificial difficulty is when you build a simple, easy layout, then buff it afterwards. So instead of gameplay that's complex and challenging on its own, you end up with tight gaps that artificially raise the difficulty. Don't do this. Spikes, saw blades, and walls should be used mainly for structuring, not to make every last input precise down to the pixel. Unfortunately, many platformer demons are guilty of doing the latter, which just makes their gameplay seem bland. To test if your level suffers from this issue, try removing most of the obstacles and see if there's still any challenge. If there is, your level is likely fine and you can put all the spikes back. If not, you have a problem. Try to spice things up with a unique mechanic that players have to learn and master in order to progress. This will make your work challenging, set it apart from others, and most importantly, save it from looking like a Little Timmy silent level. And if you just can't think of an original gimmick for your level, you can always take inspiration from another game. For example, did you know that there are 2 rated platformer demons with this same mechanic from Celeste? Momentum blocks can be used in a lot of interesting ways that work well in Geometry Dash's platformer mode. Unfortunately, one of these gimmicks, the one I'm showing on screen, can be problematic. Boosted jumps are pretty inconsistent as you have to be running and jump at the right time to actually get the boost. And even when this does happen, the distance is still inconsistent. Fortunately, you can make it work by doing one of two things in regards to difficulty. First, you can make it obvious where the player needs to jump so that they never fail to get boosted, and make the landing more lenient so the distance inconsistency doesn't matter. This, of course, works well in easy platformer demons. Another option is to keep the precise jumps and long combos that depend on precise jumps, and build the level around them to be extreme demon difficulty. That way the whole thing is hard. I don't think the mechanic works well if your difficulty is middle of the road on the other hand, because my first suggestion would make the gameplay too easy to fit in with the rest of the level, and my second would make it too hard. Difficulty balancing is an important part of level design. For an example of platformer levels with unbalanced difficulty, watch this video next.